so today we're going to be interviewing some candidates for our diagnostician position that we have available. So the first one that we're about to interview is Megan McWilliams, and she's currently a teacher at Kurth, a special education teacher in the CMC lab, the Content Mastery Lab. So we'll see what she has. She has her resume here. Looks like she's got about 10 years of experience. 6 of it was in Lufkin, and then she was in Hudson prior to that.
Is all of her experience at the primary elementary level?
Yes,
Okay.
it has been.
Okay.
So, and I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think so. That'd be great.
All right. Yeah, any questions before we bring her in?
You said 10 years?
Yes, she has 10 years. So,
Okay.
and she just has completed her diagnostician certification.
Oh, good. Good.
She's done her practicum hours with some of us last year. So,
Yeah.
all right, we'll go get her.
Okay.
Megan.
Hi.
All right, so we're just gonna. So I'm Kim Grant. I'm one of the
Hi.
diagnosticians.
Nice to meet you.
Kim Castle, Special Ed Director.
Irma Herrera, bilingual diagnostician.
So we're just gonna talk a little bit about your experience, ask you some questions,
Sure.
and we're gonna do kind of a round robin thing.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll get started. But well, first, before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I am. Let's see. I'm currently in my practicum year. Through the diagnostician program, and I work at Kurth. So I've primarily been on a K-2 campus, so
Okay.
the little ones, and I have 10 years of experience teaching K-2, or pre-K-2 actually, and then I will be done with my practicum at the end of the year. And I'm a special education teacher. This is my first year teaching special education at Kurth. So
You are SPED certified?
yes,
Okay.
AC through 12. You have to have that too.
Right.
For
Right.
diagnosis, yeah, in the program, they require that. And before that, I got my degree actually not even in education. It was in fashion merchandising.
Oh, that's so funny. Me too.
Wow. So, and then
Now, was that at SFA?
it was.
Okay.
And then 10 years later, went back and, or not 10 years later, but 8 years later, I went back and did my master's at SFA as well. So it took me a little bit to kind of know I wanted to do education, but I actually took a class at SFA my senior year, and it was a child development class in lab, and that's really what got me into loving children and wanting to teach children, and so that's kind of how I got my foot in the door.
So before you were a teacher, did you have another job, or like when you graduated college, or?
No, actually I did. I worked different kind of like buying positions. And, yeah, it was fun. My first interview was actually at the Dallas market. It was fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Then you kind of teaching. So.
Yeah.
And then you went back and did you get your master's with your diag certification, or you got?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're doing completing all that.
Yeah, I got my master's in special education with emphasis.
Okay. You got your teacher certification through like an alternative certification.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes. It took about a year. It didn't take
Okay.
very long because I already had my bachelor's. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say with that? Did you and so you've taught primary. What were your?
It's just EC through 4.
But you
It's
taught
certification.
kinder.
I taught pre-K for 2 years, and then I went into kinder, and I taught kinder for 4, second grade for 4, and then special ed.
Okay. All right. So leading into that, what inspired you? You kind of already said this, but what inspired you to pursue this career?
Let's see. When I was at Hudson, I had a little girl in my classroom, and she had cerebral palsy, and I just I don't know, some of those kids you just develop such a close bond with, and I did, and it just really, really got me interested in special education and furthering my, kind of my world, because I really didn't know much about the special ed world at all. So I think that was something that really got me thinking, you know what, I think I like this, I think I want to pursue this. And it took me a little bit too, because I would just want to make 100% sure before you go back to school and spend all that money, that you're in the lane you want to be in. So yeah. So she's, I haven't seen her in a while, but I think about her all the time.
You know, when I first started teaching, I taught at Hudson. And I was a middle school teacher in a portable building with resource students, emotionally disturbed students, and physically and ID kids. One of my favorite students had cerebral palsy, and that was the first student I'd ever worked with because my background was ED.
Oh, okay.
And I loved her. She was the sweetest, but it was a little scary sometimes.
Yes.
She did have some seizures, and we had to go through. I learned a lot having that mix of kids all in one little portable building.
You did. Wow.
Because in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 3 grade levels,
Wow.
it was interesting. But that's the way they, at that point, that was a long time ago, 27 years. That's the way they viewed SPED. We've come a long way.
Yes.
Versus the portable
good
at the
thing.
back of
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then she was totally like gen ed. I mean, she got
extreme.
pulled. Yeah, she got pulled. I think to do testing and she PTOT. But really, I mean, she was in my class for the majority of the time.
See, that's wonderful.
And, and she was so. She was very independent. She wanted to do her walker by herself or her wheelchair, and of course, you know, we had the the little boys would hold the door for her, and everyone just loved her. You know, I mean, we just absolutely loved her, and it really developed our classroom community. You know, no matter what, you know, especially at 2nd grade, they're so young, but to have good hearts, and they all just came together to, you know, make our classroom feel like she was like everybody else. And she was. She just had a little. Everyone's just a little different, you know, and so it was really sweet. It was a good year.
That sounds like it. So we talked about this question I'm going to ask. We've already answered some of this. It's how many years have been employed as an ed diag. I know you're working toward that.
Yes.
So, or a SPED professional, and you've told us that, where you've taught, where you've worked. You said Hudson and then here in Lufkin.
Yes.
And where are you currently working? That's at Kurth.
Yes.
Okay. And this is your first or second year at Kurth? Did you say?
I taught 5 years at Kurth.
Oh, Kurth.
Just at Kurth, and then
I did
I went
not
to
know that.
Hudson
Okay.
for 4, and then I came back. So it's like I told Miss Benson, it's like I came back home.
Yeah. So you were I do remember that.
And
now,
so
Megan.
it'll be
5
my 6th
years.
year.
You went to Hudson for 1 year, and now you're back
for 4 years.
4 years, and now
I'm
this is back.
Mhm.
Okay, to make that 10.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But now tell us a little bit. What I'm kind of skipping around, but what
That's okay.
I know you've been doing some practicum hours with us. What all have you gotten to do?
A lot. I've been very fortunate to have gotten a lot of experience with different types of evaluations, like reads and initials, and then I've also gotten to experience different testing protocols and help to diags with report writing and just building that rapport with the kiddos when, especially. At the middle school, I don't know those kids. I know the kids on my campus, but it's a little out of my comfort zone, but it's a good thing because I can kind of push myself and challenge myself, and it's like, oh, I can do this, So I've gotten to do that and just sit in ARD meetings and actually present some of the results to the parents as well. So that's been really helpful. For
Do you
sure.
think that makes you feel more confident going into
For
something
sure.
like that?
Because until you've done or experienced something, your confidence isn't all there. So I think just practice, makes you better for sure. Experiencing new things
Okay.
So what do you feel would be the most important aspect of this career?
just being there for the kids, basically. I love children, and so I think the most important thing is doing all that I can to represent that child to the best of my ability. And also to present it to the parent in a way that they understand. Not talking over them or throwing jargon at them. Really, them being comfortable with me. It just makes them feel at ease. Okay, well, they want the best for my child just like I do. I think that's one of the most important things, and that's what I'm gonna strive. Yeah, that's one of my goals.
Do they stress in your program at SFA about when you're in an ARD meeting not to use the acronyms that we use so every day? We say ARD. Some parents don't even know what the basic ARD, what IP stands for.
Yes.
Did they talk about that? BIP? How to?
I guess not as much as they, of course, stress the laws and everything else. But I think it is important because, there was a teacher that even asked me, what does this stand for? What is the purpose of this? And so I'm like, wow, I really need to be conscious of what I say and how I speak. And it's hard because you're in it's a different language, and so, and special ed has so many acronyms.
We do.
So
and if
I
you
think
hear
that's a good
complaints
point.
about parents not participating or feeling uneasy when they come to meetings, a lot of it revolves around that communication piece that they feel like it's missing. They're watching from the sidelines when everyone at the table knows all the lingo, and they're like, well, I don't want to ask, I'll look stupid. So that's a big thing.
Yeah,
Something to
I
remember.
definitely. And, just personally, just from experience, me coming into special education, not really having a background, being my first year, I kind of felt like that at sometimes. And so I was like, oh my gosh, writing stuff down, I need to know what and I can definitely see where a parent, even an educated parent, could feel
no, sure.
like, what
It is a different
are they
language.
talking about? Yeah. So.
That's right.
Thank you. All right, so give us some examples of teamwork as an educational diagnostician.
Definitely collaboration, communication. I think that is communication's huge, especially working with other departments, speech, the school psychologists, OT, PT, whatever it may be. I think is a big part of it, for sure. And other diagnosticians bouncing ideas off of one another. And I know that I got to sit in on some of your meetings, Monday meetings, and I saw that how you guys did that, and I thought that was awesome. And it made me feel, like, wow, I would love to be a part of this.
Yeah. It's really good to be able to come and,
Yes.
present that information. And I think that's what's unique. I mean, I've never been in another district, but that's what's unique about us is that we do those on the Monday mornings, so it's not just us making the decision, and then when we do go to an ARD, that we're a unified front.
Yes.
So
I feel confident in that decision.
I think you were really blessed to go through the interpreter arts at Kurth, to get to see that.
That was great.
I mean, really, that's rare. I don't know that we've ever done it at that level before. We've had interpreters local, that we've used in-house for meetings, but not to that level. And that's a good example of, when the testing news was delivered, it wasn't the news the school really wanted to hear. But they did their part. You absolutely did your part on collecting the data, continuing to work, because it wasn't a closed door. It was let's collect some more data.
Exactly.
It's just not sure, and it worked
to kind
out.
of see which direction we need to go. For sure.
That was a really good experience for everyone to see. So.
And it showed me the collaboration, because it wasn't just Kim in there. It was the speech therapist, and I mean everybody was in there. So I think that's really.
I thought that was probably the best definition of teamwork and collaboration is what happened for that child. So
I do too.
So describe a decision you made. You may not have come across this yet, although that's exactly what we just talked about. It's a good one. That may have been unpopular, and how you handled that.
Yeah. I would probably just think of Morgan for sure. It was really tough for the campus to take because they've had this child, and me coming in as a new set of eyes, I think was really good because I didn't know Morgan. I had worked with him for like a short amount of time, but I didn't know the background. I've heard, but I haven't seen what they've seen. So really going in to that meeting, I was nervous, and it wasn't even. I was nervous because I knew that what they wanted, and then you guys had a different perspective. Like, well, let's kind of figure out a little bit more. We need a little bit more to just, to kind of, figure out where he needs to be or where we need to go. So, and I think legally it was really good. And I talked to my professor about it too, and she said that it's absolutely the right call, to, especially the language barrier.
That was huge.
Yes, and, and it, because you never want to go back and say, well, what if this, or what if this? You want to be confident.
That they truly
it's his life.
understand.
Yes. And it's a big label to put on a child. So,
think it was
Yeah.
informative for many people in the room.
Yes.
And the parents, not
Yes.
only, they may have not really, maybe wanted to have their ears open to hearing what,
Yeah.
but it was a good
Yeah.
meeting for everyone. We're on the right track.
Yeah.
A little bit further to get there.
I know. It's
So
sweet.
kind of going back into that, just and like you said, but if you know, of course, as being like I was the one that had to deliver that
I
news, like
know.
how would you feel handling that if that was you? Because that's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. I would be nervous, but I think that you were 100% prepared. You came in and everyone had a really good, handle on what was going on and what needed to be done and the steps you had to follow to get there. And you both wanted the end goal. You know, the campus you want the same as the campus did at the end, but it took another, direction to get there. So I think I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be really nervous, to be honest with you. But if I have all my ducks in a row and I really present it in a way that's, I handle it well.
Yeah.
I think I'll be, I'll be okay.
Well, that's another
I
good
don't-
thing is that again the team was there, and then
Exactly.
you're not on the team evaluations or something like that, but that's what your mother
Exactly.
Kim are good about. If it's a
Yeah.
tough art, they'll come
Yeah.
and help and support.
And reaching out to other
Yes.
resources like,
Yeah.
other regions.
Yeah, we did
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
You did that, yeah.
Yeah, because
Just to have that as
Exactly.
your documentation
Yeah.
of your supporting what you're
Yeah.
doing. So.
Yeah, no, that news is never easy to deliver.
yes.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult for some parents if they're lower cognitive, they're functioning,
especially the language barrier too.
and language
Too.
barrier,
I
it's
know.
And then
hard.
we have to be really careful a lot of times, with the term predetermination,
Yes.
not delivering the news prior to like a principal or to the parents without it being at the ARD first, because it's ultimately, we present the testing and,
Exactly. But it's our
I
creative
made a decision,
yes.
I'm glad you brought that up because you will get phone calls from principals and they will say, well, did they qualify?
Yeah.
Did they qualify? And, that decision is left to the ARD. But did they meet the criteria? Did they meet some of the guidelines that we have to follow? Now that you can share with the
Okay.
principal, and I think a lot of you do that. Just say, well, they,
Yes, and the
but
art
not-
invitation, I've seen
Yes.
that.
but the
And sometimes to
qualification.
keep it, like if you know that the campus, like you said, they're not going to be in agreement already, you've already heard, then it's good to meet with them prior just to
Yes.
have
Okay.
Pre-meet.
a staff, pre-staff. You could do that.
That's
That's,
Yeah.
Morgan's already got it.
mhm.
Those are rare, I will tell you.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not,
rare. No.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to do with every single
Okay.
ARD.
But it
You-
works if you do that.
It does.
It seems mostly to happen K through 3rd or 4th grade
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Once you get past, it's not like that.
It's kind of like they've been there, done that.
Mhm.
Like
I
with the
don't know
meetings and
why,
stuff.
but it
Yeah.
does.
Kind
Because
of
they're their
smooths out.
babies and they're
Yeah.
very protective
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they want that answer. They know something's going on and they want to be able to connect the dots.
Yeah.
So the news from us when we have to say, sorry, at this point,
Mhm.
they don't meet the criteria, eligibility will be determined at the ARD, but if you don't meet the criteria, you're not going to find that eligibility.
Yeah.
So those are conversations you'll grow into and you'll find your own
Yes.
rhythm and language.
Yes.
I never, as a diagnostician, was comfortable saying mentally retarded. And that's back before it changed to ID. I always had to come, and I would always have a little scale so they could kind of see the levels, mild, moderate, severe. That was more comfortable to me, showing them the visual.
Yes.
And where my scoring, and I've emphasized this is just a test that was administered at that point, we could give a test in a day. So, and we were using the Tony, for a nonverbal. We don't use that anymore. So, but we would always have that to be able to say, here's where they fell.
Yeah.
Just hated it. I don't know that ever gets easier to have to deliver that news to parents, but you'll find your way around.
Yes.
That was my kind of workaround of having to not have to say those words.
Yeah. The visual's a good idea.
What kind of software applications are you familiar with, or that you know that throughout your intern or practicum have you used, such as like
I use eSped.
eSped? Okay.
And
Or in your program that
yeah.
Is SFA using eSped yet?
No, they're using some other, and
is it Easy Tracker?
I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't
I
remember.
think it's Easy Tracker.
We have,
That's the.
'Cause I know that they were
Is
gonna
it
try to
no,
get.
no,
No,
Easy Tracker.
that doesn't sound
Something
familiar.
Hold
But
on.
it's very, it's not user friendly. I didn't care for it at all.
It's not C. It's not
I don't think they were gonna try to get
East
EastEd, but then they
Eastbed is
were.
so much better.
Okay,
I remember. I'll look and see.
Oh, Easy Tracker's for your CMC
Yeah.
time.
That's a
I'm thinking,
CMC.
yeah, CMC and time. Okay,
I can't remember. I really don't.
So
but
you,
you're familiar with Eastbed.
Yes,
Okay.
and I've done a lot of, you know.
will you do your goals for your your
Yes,
students and then
yes,
progress
goals,
reports,
objectives, yes, progress reports.
and then you've written reports.
Mhm.
What other protocol? Like, have you been able to put anything like?
Yes, I've done, let's see, the WJ oral language, I've done a Vineland.
Have you used iPads?
Yes, the iPads, I love the iPads. I love to be able to get the port.
Right then, yeah.
Yes, it's great.
Have you had
Technology's awesome.
a chance to do the WISC 5 on the
Yes.
iPads?
Yes, the WISC and the KTA, I'm sorry, it's been
Yeah.
a little bit. What other one? The
Whipsy.
Wyatt, Whipsy,
KABC,
Do we have
the
one?
KTA.
Have you done KTEA.
Uh-huh.
And there's probably some that you've done in school that we don't have.
Yeah, I did the Beery VMI.
I really have that.
And
We
then,
used to
yeah, I
do
saw
that
it.
standard
I saw it. Yes.
with everything.
And I did the Woodcock Munoz, just the English part. And what other ones did I do? I'm sorry. I'm
No,
thinking
yeah.
it was last
There's-
summer.
Do they still have you using Stanford Benet, or is that just totally no? It's gone.
So do they train you? Because it's been a few years since I've done the diet program. Did they train you at all on the iPads, or did you just use iPads here?
Dr. Mask had said she would love that, but it's expensive for one, and they have to mail the stuff to us and to ship the iPads back before. She said it would be a nightmare.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and I did mostly everything that you guys have. I've done through SFA.
Okay.
And she
Yeah.
still takes your protocols and looks at your
She
scoring.
does.
Mhm.
Actually, I had to actually cut mine apart, scan them, send them, and then upload all the videos. I
Mhm.
mean, the full extended battery at 21 subtests.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I gave my daughter, she was like, no.
I used to sit
I
there for doing
know.
that.
And then like I was grabbing friends' kids and I'm like, please, I'll take them to the store after or whatever. So bribing them, and it was, because they were giving up some of their summer, so it was really,
Did you get a chance to use cross battery?
I did.
Okay. You use that software?
We did, yes, we did use cross battery at SFA. That was a huge thing. Even though it was really confusing, but once I kind of got into my practicum year and saw how the DAGs utilized it, it made a lot more sense.
Did you have coursework your practicum? That
I did.
Did they talk about the corrective action plan with the
Yes.
federal government? I just wondered if you heard anything about cross battery in that conversation, that it was something we needed to continue. It's going to stand its.
Not particularly,
Okay.
but I mean, from what Dr. Mask had said, and she's pushing cross battery. She said it's great, and all the books that, all the textbooks that were issued, all kind of followed that same.
All of it.
Yeah, the CHC theory.
So CSEP is not something you guys practiced. I went to a training on that, but it's just like one area, like you just test one specific G. I didn't know if y'all had any kind of training on that, the CSEP.
Now, was it your training or something we brought back from conference that talked about that we don't need an IQ to determine a learning disability?
Oh,
I've
Did
heard
you-
that,
Oh,
but
really?
not really through SFA. I
Okay.
didn't. She sent me a lot of different things. Actually, I saved them on my computer just as a reference to use. But she was really the intervals. The confidence intervals. She really hammered on those, like the 68%, 90, 95, especially in determining ID. She said it was a big
Oh, really?
deal. Yeah.
The confidence intervals.
Yes.
So like if maybe they had like a 72, and then
Yes, depending on what percentage you used, they could qualify, they could not. So she said it was really important to make sure you're using the right ones. That's what, I don't know, so that's something that she really
We need to talk
was.
about that.
I know. And I can print off
I would love that.
what she sent. She sent me.
Yeah, I really think that it was at a recent somewhere where they had that discussion, and I thought, no, that's so outside of
I
my
know.
thinking.
I know.
I feel like you need to determine cognitive functioning
Yeah.
before you can go any further.
So what were they saying? Just using, just
That we should be able to determine that an IQ has nothing to do with a learning disability. But I really, to me, I think about just the typical Down syndrome child. I mean, we know they're going to have some cognitive deficits typically when you test. That varies determining by the child, but we know that going in. Okay, so could you then just do the academic piece of that to see where their strengths are? I can see that in my head. I can
Yeah.
kind of wrap my head around that because we have so much data on Down syndrome to know, but past that, I don't really understand how we would determine
Yeah.
truly a learning disability without even knowing that piece.
That'd be
So I'm
hard
just
to
interested
do.
to know if that's ever been discussed.
We went to that training with Robert Nissick,
At the,
but
yes,
he didn't talk about, he didn't
not
mention
having
that.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
It reminds me too, I'm sorry,
No.
of the dyslexia. You know, to qualify for that, you have to have some kind of average cognitive ability to know the
To
nine
respond
steps,
from the
because those are
program.
not easy.
No.
I mean, they're very challenging. You have to remember a lot of information, and you have to apply it. You know, so that kind of what you said just made me think of that.
Well, and that goes along with just academic tests in general.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to have some ability to grasp a
Yes.
grade level
Yes.
academic task. If not, you are going to struggle. I
I
don't know. I just didn't know if they talked about that with
No,
her.
no,
Okay.
she never did.
I have a couple of other questions.
Yeah.
Just, one of our big things is just evaluation. So what would you think what are the components that make up a good evaluation?
Pulling from the child's background, educational background, parent information, just accessing their current grades, STAR if applicable, any medical history I think is really important.
Absolutely.
Just like, especially the vision, hearing, screenings, stuff like that. Dynamic assessments.
So hard to. So a lot of times it's hard to get a hearing.
Yeah, yeah. And so just basically pulling from that and just getting a good overall, view of what the child, of who they are and their background and stuff. So
What about parent information? How do you think that's important?
yeah, for sure, because parents can give you more insight. Well, they know their child the best, And so any previous or current medical or anything going on in the home, the household, divorce, whatnot, can really give you a better view of what's going on with the child and if it's affecting them, academically.
Let's see, I'm just gonna see. Of course, you're not going to be evaluating for, autism or anything, but have you had any experience with children with autism and emotional disturbances? Like, because you may be having to test them, like, for cognitive and.
Yeah, actually I have. Going back to my little friend with cerebral palsy in second grade, I had a little boy named Brandon that year too, and I didn't get him till January. So here he comes, and he's just his own little, his own little cute self, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off, but
No.
what makes me think of him the most is that we were in line coming from the playground, of course, straight line, and here Brandon goes he did a roll and he popped back up, and he did a roll and he'd pop back up, and I'd call him his James Bond rolls. It looks like his, it was so funny, but I don't know, we built a good relationship. But going testing wise, I had a little boy at Kurth, Nicholas, and I had to test him and then another little girl, Ava, and they're just very pleasant. And
Because sometimes, you will have to test them and they might have some behaviors and you're
Oh,
I think
for
you
sure.
experienced some of
I
that.
did, I
Yeah,
did.
this semester.
I did, and it was. I kind of have a little treat bag, or Skittles, or something fun. Like if we need a break, I call it because Ava loves Skittles, so I was like, well, let's take a little Skittle break, or a bathroom or whatever.
So building that rapport
Exactly,
with the child and knowing.
exactly. That's important. and it makes me feel more comfortable too. Like once they kind of get settled and situated, then I'm like, okay, you know, I kind of feel myself relaxing a little bit more as well.
Anything, let me just look in here. What about, how do you think that, you know, I know the role of diagnostician is basically us, you know, evaluating and then handling that paperwork, and especially, you know, how could you support teachers? Do you think that would be the, you know, if they need supports like visually or, you know, recommendations, that kind of thing? Like,
Yeah. Just any kind of, you know, depending on what the deficits are that the child is having, if they qualify, or if they don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
you know,
big,
they
yeah.
need some support in the classroom. So just kind of finding those resources for them. I have a lot of good stuff that I've gotten, you know, through this practicum year. You know, I got a lot of good stuff from you. And just utilizing that and talking to them about that, or even like giving them examples of what I've used previously, or if I had a similar child, but just, you know, making that teacher feel like that I care, that I'm not just like, okay, my job's done, bye. You know,
Yeah.
I want her to know this, you know, I understand this is challenging, and here's some things that I've used. Just really being personable to them.
And you know what you may
So,
find,
I don't know.
and I think this has worked really well for you and for Letty too. You were a gen ed teacher,
Yeah.
and a lot of diagnosticians come from a special ed only background. They don't have that gen ed piece. And so some teachers won't have the same respect for the information given.
Yeah.
I know our LSSP struggle with that when they're giving recommendations to classroom teachers, and they'll look at that and they'll say, have you ever taught, or have you ever, they'll start quizzing,
Yeah.
and they find out they've never been in a classroom. It kind of
For
shuts
sure.
that down.
Yeah.
And so that's a positive that you'll have to bring when you are doing recommendations to helping teachers, is that you've been there. You've had the precious little ones that you've talked about.
And knowing the
And-
programs that they have, and then one of the things that I did this semester is reached out to one of the instructional coaches,
That's a good idea.
even to the
especially-
bilingual director, just collaborating with them.
That's a good
And
idea,
then,
especially since I don't really have any secondary experience. So really, kind of, if I do get stumped on something, that's a
Those
good.
coaches are
Yeah.
good
I
resources.
did. That's what
really
I
good
did
idea.
because I was doing observations in a classroom just to make sure. I said, "This is what I'm looking for, but this is what I'm seeing,
Yeah.
and can you show me?"
Yeah.
Because I remember looking at the curriculum of what it looks like, just the vertical alignment of
Yeah.
that. So it kind of helped me also in working with that
Yeah.
specific student earlier that I spoke about.
And
Just kind of tracking the math,
Yeah.
and then
The
talking to
expectations.
yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the observation is really good.
Yes.
So they're huge.
Yes, getting in that classroom and really, you know, kind of role playing like you're the student. You know, I don't know. I thought about that, especially in 6th grade math. I was like, oh gosh, I didn't like math in their school, and just knowing what they have to learn. But really, you know, seeing how they learn it and their steps and everything and what they do, because I know the classes that I've observed have the notebook, the math notebook, and they utilize that a
The
lot.
interactive
Yes,
journals,
it's
yes.
neat.
So she did a lot of observations at middle school too.
Mhm.
And I know one of the things that she did was reached out to the teachers, like just to let them know, hey, next week I'm going out, to not being specific, because, you know, I think that was one of the good things that you did. You just kind of said, hey, I'm going to drop in sometime next week. Or,
Yeah, just kind of planned that.
Yeah.
And they always said, don't come on Friday, it's a testing day,
Yeah.
or, you know, something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay, so I'll just ask the last question. What do you think that you can bring to this position?
I think I can bring kind of a fresh, I guess, a fresh look on things. Just
Yeah.
you know, being fresh out of school. But I also think I can bring a lot of, you know, collaboration, teamwork, and I love to help out, you know, and I love to learn. And so I'm definitely coming in this with, you know, I want to learn as much as I can. And I'm excited to, you know, build new relationships, meet new people. And so I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to
Well, that's one thing that is, never be afraid to ask questions, because
Oh, for
that's what
sure,
we're here
yeah.
for.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that I was so scared about, is because
Yeah.
I had done a little bit of practicum and
Yeah.
stuff, but,
And everything's changed.
Yeah, it changes.
Yeah,
so just being able to,
for sure.
have that hands-on experience and
Yeah.
stuff, but that's what everybody's here for, is to, but again, you're gonna bring new information to us.
Yeah.
It's changed.
Yeah.
So it's really
yeah.
changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just staying with the conferences or new workshops, that would benefit you,
For
looking
sure.
for those.
Yeah.
Staying current with that information.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions for us?
No, not that I can think of. I'm just really excited for the opportunity, and I'm excited. I feel like this is somewhere I could definitely grow and see myself for a long period of time. So I'm really excited. I am.
We can kind of talk about maybe like what our caseloads look like, or, and more.
And that's something I haven't experienced. I know your mom has showed me a little bit of what that looks like, and I've written some notes down, but to actually see it in action.
So when everything rolls over, which is usually after the 4th,
Yeah.
both systems, our Skyward system and our eSped will roll over, and we then sort the children out by grade level so that we know who's where,
Yeah.
And that's if they all come back, and they usually do, plus several. Plus,
Yeah.
So then we look at who are current, and I know a couple of ladies right now are struggling with their caseloads, with the numbers, just of reevaluations, really. The elementary is heavy on reevals, primary is heavy on initials.
Yes.
So,
I'm going to cut into,
Yeah.
because just to explain to her, that, so we have our caseloads, and then we're responsible for the reevals that we have, and
Yes.
then any initials is a round robin
Yes.
type thing.
so I
So
do
just initials around.
just
them.
initials,
Okay.
and those are spread out, but everyone winds up with about 12, 13, 14 was this year, a piece for the year. So you've got your caseload plus an additional
Got it.
14 children to test. So, and some of that's in conjunction with the LSSPs. If we do not find another LSSP, we've had the posting now going on here, this will be year 2. So we'll probably help support their testing
Yeah.
with the academic and achievement piece, so that they're just doing not academic and cognitive, so they're doing their emotional side or autism, whatever they're testing for. So we do look and try to spread caseloads out. I have some that have larger caseloads than others. Those are mainly secondary. Like 11, I have one that covers all the 11th to 12th grade and Stubblefield. So she has the largest caseload, approximately 140 kids. The average caseload, we try to keep around 100, under that if we can. So, but senior ARDs don't take as long. You're not getting new information. You're just confirming they have so they're a little quicker to process. So, and we talked about it. She knew, and she handled it. She's not one to complain, but I do have an elementary guy that's got really sort of started drowning on me mid-year with reevals. So I do want to split out the elementary a little better to divide that and spread the love, because it does need to be broken up a bit. So I don't know that, so that's how we look at it. We look at it by numbers, sheer numbers, but then of course grade level plays into it. Kim is heavy on child find and Hurdy, so I don't really give her, unless I have to, put her in that round robin. So I don't have everyone in the round robin system. Irma takes on and helps Letty out with the bilingual piece of it that's huge. And so I don't really like, unless we had a private school here this year that referred a ton of kids. I was very unusual, and when we got the stack of files, I did have to say help.
Yeah.
Because
and it's, I like it, but it is busy. It's like she said, it's just dividing everything
And
out.
then that
It
goes
is-
all back into the communication aspect of it. If you are struggling, that's, you have to ask for
You have to
help.
say.
Yeah.
no, I don't.
And we fix it. And
Yes.
Kim
Yeah.
is good about,
Yeah.
send out an email, how we have somebody that can't get this done, can somebody do
Right.
it, so.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing about the teamwork and
Yeah.
the collaboration, so.
It's good to know that you have each other.
Yeah. Anything else? Our days 7:30 to 4.
And
The
then on
contract?
Friday, it's 7:30 to 3:15.
And then the
Yeah.
contract days?
207, 205.
Okay.
I never knew that
And it
correct.
starts in, the contract starts in August.
August.
Yeah.
So you come back for your August and 1st and 2nd, the comp days
Yes.
that we do are big deal at the high school. And then you have a day off after that. Like, that's a Thursday, Friday. I have
Yeah,
to look
it
at the
is.
calendar. I
It
think
is.
it's a Thursday,
It is.
Friday. And then
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
back that
You're right.
Monday.
The next week,
Yeah.
yes.
We do the same
Yes.
exact thing at the beginning as teachers, it's
Yes.
just the end is where we work.
It looks different.
Yeah.
days.
It's a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's nice because we
Yeah.
can finish up
Yeah,
testing
for sure.
or
Paperwork.
and stuff and it's quiet, so.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to be looking at, and this has just been recommended because I've had to bring in some help in the summer to test and contract out to pay those ladies extra time to test. It may be adding days. I know not everyone wants days added, so there's our dilemma. How do we do that? For those, some love their month off in July. They don't want any more time.
Yeah.
So, or they're 1 week, 1.5 weeks in June and then July. So we're going to look at that to see how that, what that's going to look like. But I think that we're going to have to go to year-round testing. I don't see us being able to keep up with the load, especially with the new
Yeah.
corrective action plan that the state has had to write for the federal government. I don't see us keeping up.
Yeah,
With-
well, I saw that firsthand just at Kurth. I mean, all the,
So if we
Parent
hadn't
request.
had your help,
yeah.
I don't know what
It
Kurth
was-
would have looked like. It would have been
was-
really
it was crazy.
challenging.
Yeah, it really was.
So,
But
yeah.
that's just that one campus, so I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine the others, so.
The dyslexia piece is hitting us.
Yes.
And that's something the region is aware of. I mean, it's not just this area, it's statewide. That has been huge. You have some districts who are just testing every dyslexic child for SPED. We have a really good system worked out with our,
We do.
Dyslexic
Lufkin
person.
ISD is very fortunate to
Yeah.
have that because Hudson doesn't.
so
Yeah,
I,
it's just something that
Well,
I've
Kim
seen.
sat down with
It's just,
the dyslexia testing person.
yes.
And they kind of worked out what
Some-
what it would look like.
Some
so.
paperwork too that
Mhm.
shows that we're making every effort
yeah.
to identify, because the way the corrective action plan reads, anyone even suspected of dyslexia needs to be at least offered testing for special ed. The parent doesn't have to say yes. Any child suspected of dyslexia, we're having a hard time keeping up with those because they're coming, and so we're looking at that. So I don't know what right now our contracts I think are 207 or 205.
Mhm.
And then, for those, I may put it out there to see how many would want the
Oh,
extension
yeah.
and see, because they don't really like the way that I'm doing the time sheets. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
we're working on that
just
piece.
personally, just knowing how busy it does get, I
Mhm.
would definitely be up for
Doing
just kind of spreading it out and not being so swamped all
Yeah.
at once.
I
That's just-
agree.
And I think because nobody wants to feel, not me.
And I
you know,
see
so
that. I
would-
see
I
it
would
working that
rather-
way, like a floating.
yeah.
Not that you get it all in right consecutive.
Exactly,
It's
but
over
you
the
can
summer.
Keep up, and you
Yes, so
won't
that
get.
you don't start in the fall, which is
Yeah.
what's happened.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you don't have any other questions for us, we're probably going to be making a decision probably by the end of the week, and then we'll let you know and get everything rolling. You have our information if you need to contact us. If you have any other questions, but anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
again.
thank you for
Thank you so
taking
much.
it. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, it's absolutely the best
She is
for our
the best
team.
at it, like, especially with the practicum hours that she's put in, and she knows the
Just what
systems.
we've seen her do
Yeah.
the work, and
I know that
she's wanting to.
The willingness.
The willingness
Yeah,
to-
absolutely.
I know that I think the OT Lindsay was saying that she'd sit her off with her, and she just
It's wonderful.
yeah. So I know that just it's hard to have get that hands-on experience, and just with that
One of the things that I really liked in that case that you guys talked about is that she stayed neutral.
yes.
She
Like
absolutely
I
did.
never, even coming in and anything that she did, not carrying information back. She was really neutral, but wanted to know what was going on or what should I do.
Yeah, how she should
Mhm.
have.
So yeah.
I was willing to
Willing to.
accept our suggestions.
Mhm.
Well, definitely. I know we have a couple more interviews, but
Yes.
we need to keep an open mind. But
Oh, yeah, she's the front runner for
I
sure.
think that, it's just what we need.
Absolutely.
Thank you.